With Lebanon facing an uncertain future, we ask a government minister how real peace can be achieved.
The framework agreement that has been put in place in Washington says clearly, and the Israelis agreed to that Israel has no territorial ambitions in Lebanon and that Israel will withdraw.
Now, do you believe that?
It's not about believing, it's about putting in place the mechanism that will start the withdrawal of the Israeli troops.
Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Ghida Fakhry. Today we focus on the political and security crisis engulfing Lebanon as it faces once again a moment of profound uncertainty. After months of cross-border fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, Israeli forces have continued to launch airstrikes on southern Lebanon and to occupy large areas, devastating entire towns and villages, killing thousands of people and displacing over 1 million. Questions remain over the Lebanese government's ability to enforce its own sovereignty. Meanwhile, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, which was established in 1978 following Israel's invasion of Lebanon, has come under repeated attack. Since March, at least 7 UN peacekeepers have been killed. With the Security Council mandate for UNIFIL running out at the end of this year, who will fill the security vacuum along the Israel-Lebanon border? We'll be speaking with the Lebanese Minister for the Displaced, Kamal Shehadi, in just a few moments. But first, we're joined by Tilak Pokharel, a spokesperson for UNIFIL. Tilak Pokharel, how would you describe the current reality in southern Lebanon? How many daily ceasefire violations is UNIFIL recording?
The situation in southern Lebanon at the moment is extremely concerning. Since the 2nd of March this year, we have been recording daily violations on land, on air, and at sea also. We have seen airstrikes, we have seen demolitions, we have seen ground incursions by the Israel Defense Forces. We have also seen, thousands and thousands of people living and fleeing to safety. We have been supporting as much as possible, to the extent possible, to those leaving and those who are staying.
We hear the UN Secretary General regularly call on, quote, all sides to respect the ceasefire. Does treating both sides as equally responsible for the violations reflect the situation on the ground as far as you're concerned?
There have been more projectiles, more trajectories, more firings, airstrikes, of course, coming from the Israeli side. But having said that, on the 2nd of March, it all started with some rockets and missiles fired from the Lebanese side, and we see daily almost there were like only one or 2 days without those firings from the Lebanese side. Otherwise, we have also seen some of them. Definitely, it's disproportionate from the Israeli side, but there are these things happening from both sides.
It's very disproportionate. If I look at UNIFIL's own data from one reporting period, it indicates that roughly 97% of tracked projectiles came from the Israeli side and only 3% from Lebanon. Why is the UN leadership then so unwilling to publicly acknowledge this imbalance?
We have been reporting the facts. It is disproportionate, definitely, yes. But it's happening from both sides. That's true also.
And yet UN peacekeepers are coming under attack by Israeli forces. In fact, several peacekeepers have already been killed. Do you believe that Israel is deliberately targeting UN peacekeepers in Lebanon?
We had a few tragic incidents in which we lost some of our peacekeepers. So far, we have lost 7 peacekeepers, and then the UN has launched investigations, frankly, to determine the circumstances leading to those incidents, to those tragic events.
From your vantage point, though, do these attacks seem to be deliberate?
I cannot say, for example, without having a final report in place, and I cannot say anything conclusively. But in some of those attacks, for example, on the 29th of March, we had an attack in which one of our positions got hit by a tank fire. We said that was, based on the finding of the preliminary finding of the investigation, we said that was from the IDF. And then the following day, we had another incident in which we lost peacekeepers, and one of our convoys actually hit a landmine on the way, and we believe that mine was planted by Hezbollah on the road. Uh, we want to think that the parties would act responsibly and ensure the safety security of the peacekeepers, which is not the case, unfortunately. But we hope things will be different.
One of UNIFIL's core tasks is, quote, to confirm the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Lebanese territory. How realistic is this goal, given the fact that UNIFIL is about to close down its mission by the beginning of next year? Who fills the security gap? Who ensures that Israeli forces actually leave Lebanon?
Yes, that language it has been there since 1978, but things after 2024 have changed. So, who fills the gap? The Security Council has to decide what to do next after 1st of January 2027.
Tilak Pokharel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the International Rescue Committee warns that communities in southern Lebanon are at breaking point as Israel issues more forced displacement orders. While this continues, the Lebanese government has been holding negotiations with Israel in Washington. Kamal Shehadi is Lebanon's Minister for Displaced Persons. He joins us now from Beirut. Minister Shehadi, Lebanon stands at a very critical juncture. What is the government's key priority? Is it to end Israel's daily bombardment and occupation of southern Lebanon, or is it the disarmament of Hezbollah?
I think our priority is both, because you cannot have one without the other. If we can have a ceasefire now, it will make our job easier. It will allow for the negotiations to move much faster. And in fact, it is a condition of the Lebanese government to have a ceasefire. And so we want the ceasefire, but we also want to move expeditiously with the disarmament.
How can you achieve the ceasefire realistically?
I think the ceasefire is something that most parties have asked for, except Israel. And if now the United States is going to weigh in and put pressure on Israel to ceasefire, then I think there will be a ceasefire. It may not hold very long. Most ceasefires tend to break down and they have to be renegotiated. But at least for now, we do have support internationally and from the US specifically for a ceasefire.
Do you have your priorities right, Minister? Should the government first focus on ending the daily bombing of southern Lebanon, the occupation, or should it be turning against one of its own political parties that is actually trying to resist Israeli forces?
Disarming Hezbollah has been a requirement, legal and constitutional requirement for more than 40 years. It's been a demand from the international community. Our objective is the full liberation of Lebanese territory and the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from all of Lebanon and the return of all the displaced, internally displaced, to their homes and villages. So it's not that we don't consider that a priority. That is our objective.
But what leverage does the government actually have?
Our leverage is one that there isn't going to be any stability on the southern border without proper control by the Lebanese armed forces and the Lebanese state restoring sovereignty on the whole territory of Lebanon.
Well, Minister, with respect, we saw how the Lebanese army actually retreated from South Lebanon, ceding the territory to Israeli forces when they first began their invasion.
It's a war that the Lebanese government did not choose. It is a war, as you very well know, that Iran chose, that Hezbollah chose, not with our support, not with our agreement. And we're not going to fight other people's wars. Hezbollah dragged Lebanon into war. The reality is the Lebanese army would have been decimated had it tried to enter into a war for which it was not prepared.
The question, Minister, was this: how do you actually ensure that the Israeli army leaves Lebanon, ends its occupation of the south, when the army isn't willing or able to protect it?
Oh, the Lebanese army is willing to protect it. The Lebanese army is willing. The Lebanese army clearly needs a lot of support, a lot of more funding and more equipment. We know that. Everybody knows that we need that. And the US, France, the Gulf countries realize that. So I don't think anyone in their right mind has any other option but to support the Lebanese government and the Lebanese armed forces in restoring the sovereignty over the whole of the territory.
The chief of the Lebanese armed forces not long ago actually cautioned against the forcible disarmament of Hezbollah, saying it could trigger a civil war. How do you envisage that happening without pushing Lebanon into internal conflict or even civil war?
There is widespread support in Lebanon among all communities and all factions, widespread support for the objective of restoring state sovereignty over the whole territory and disarming Hezbollah. Now, what we're saying is we need a ceasefire because just as the commander of Lebanese armed forces said, he cannot do his job unless there is a ceasefire. He said that in 2025. He's been saying this ever since. And we realize that the Lebanese armed forces cannot operate and cannot move ahead and disarm Hezbollah and search for weapons in the south unless there is a ceasefire and there is a return to the Israeli army beyond the border and the Lebanese armed forces move and take over that area.
You have heard statements made by Israeli officials. They have been intent on saying that they will not be leaving the south of Lebanon. How important is it to make sure that Israel actually leaves South Lebanon? I mean, that is wishful thinking, isn't it?
No, it is not wishful thinking. This is our position. This is what we're negotiating. And the framework agreement that has been put in place in Washington says clearly, and the Israelis agreed to that, that Israel has no territorial ambitions in Lebanon and that Israel will withdraw. Now,
Do you believe
Israel
that?
has also said, listen, it's not about believing, it's about putting in place the mechanism that will start the withdrawal of the Israeli troops, the Israeli army from Lebanon. We're not going to compromise, not 1 inch from Lebanon, not one village that inhabitants cannot go back to. Simultaneously, Hezbollah cannot continue to be an Iranian militia operating in Lebanon freely and giving Israel every other year an opportunity to come back and destroy Lebanon as it did in 2024 and in 2026 now.
Critics will say that the Lebanese government negotiating with Israel in Washington while the Israeli forces are still bombing the country on a daily basis is less of a national strategy and more of an attempt to settle the regional balance of power inside Lebanon to Israel's advantage. What do you say to that?
I think that's just a lot of hot air. I would ask these same people, or ask you to ask them, what do they think about Iran negotiating with the United States under fire when Iran is being bombed by the United States? The negotiations went on uninterrupted, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. Negotiations are the only way out. If you think that the Lebanese have an armed or a military answer to what's happening now, then I think you and I are looking at a different reality.
Some Lebanese look at the current negotiations with Israel as a capitulation. Is that fair?
Yeah, but that's a minority within Lebanon. I think you judge it whether it's a capitulation by the results that the negotiations lead to. You cannot judge it because we started negotiating. You cannot say it's capitulation because we are negotiating in good faith. What we have today on the table that we're negotiating is a step-by-step withdrawal in exchange for cooperation from Hezbollah in handing over its weapons to the Lebanese armed forces.
You said the Lebanese government is negotiating in good faith. Do you believe the Israeli government is negotiating in good faith?
I think we'll see whether they are. The step-by-step approach that we have agreed to with the United States is one that gives an opportunity to build confidence. If the intentions are not to respect the agreement, that's going to become evident very, very, very early on in the process.
You've argued that Lebanon must free itself from Iranian influence.
Yes.
And many Lebanese would agree with this in principle, but in practical terms, Iran still appears to be the one actor with leverage, not only over Hezbollah, but through the negotiations with Washington. If the priority is to end the war and secure a real ceasefire, why not accept Iran's linkage of Lebanon to its negotiations with Washington?
Because I think that would be forfeiting our right to shape our own future, because that would be a failure on our part to respect, to hold on to the sovereignty of our country. And we know that our country is not strong enough today to do this by force.
But aren't you
But it doesn't mean
prioritizing ideology over ending the conflict?
we're prioritizing the welfare, the prosperity of the Lebanese, and we're prioritizing our pride in our history over everything else. You know, the time when militias, whether Palestinian or today Hezbollah, decide the fate of Lebanon, today, these days are gone. There is no one in the government, there is no one in parliament that is willing to support that. At least there is a majority that says enough is enough. We have paid a high price
But
for other
Minister,
people's wars.
so what do you say to those Lebanese, though, a significant part of the population who believe that Hezbollah is the only deterrent against Israeli invasions?
I just ask them to look at the reality on the ground. Every day that goes by, more villages are destroyed, more territory is occupied by Israel, and the heavier the tax on the Lebanese population as a whole, especially the people of the south who pay the price, the blood tax. The rest of the Lebanese are paying a tax as well. But this is something that is untenable. Anyone who believes that Hezbollah has been a deterrent today should wake up and smell the coffee. Hezbollah has not been a deterrent. Look at where the Israeli forces are today. Hezbollah has been a cause for conflict in the south of Lebanon, and that has attracted not only Israeli retaliation, but the isolation of Lebanon in the Arab world.
But let's face it, though, the Lebanese government doesn't have the capacity, does it, to resist the Israelis?
Well, we do have the capacity, and we have the political support to do it. We need more support to get it done.
Do you have the political will, though, to face down the Israelis?
We do have.
I mean, part of your territory is being occupied, Minister, as we speak, up to 10%.
And it is, and it's exactly the same people, Hezbollah, whom you claim will defend and deter, who failed to deter and have failed in defending.
I don't claim. I'm saying a significant.
No, you just
I'm saying
said
a significant.
Sorry. Yes.
No. Let me
those
to
people,
set the record straight. I said a significant
that.
part of the population believe that Hezbollah is the only real deterrent.
Absolutely. Those people who say that today can see very clearly that Hezbollah did not deter and Hezbollah did not defend. Okay, it is those same people today who should be holding Hezbollah accountable, who should be holding Hezbollah and Iran accountable for dragging them into a war that has cost so far more than 4,000 lives in the last few weeks, in the last few months, and more than 12,000 injured, and billions of dollars of in economic destruction and economic costs to the country.
And a million displaced.
And a million, yes, over a million and 1.2, 1.3 million people displaced. Yes.
Minister, how do you respond to Benjamin Netanyahu's call on the Lebanese people to join Israel against Hezbollah? And how do you feel when he says that Israel is not at war with Lebanon, but rather with Hezbollah? Do you accept that, given the amount of destruction?
I don't need to respond, and I will not respond, and I don't need to agree or disagree with what Netanyahu said. What I'm saying is very clear. Lebanon, constitutionally, legally, politically, has made its decision through its constitutional system. Hezbollah and its weapons are illegal. Hezbollah has brought destruction, has failed to deter, has failed to defend, and that is very clear. We're not going to change our mind because somebody else said it, no matter how dangerous this is for Lebanon. We're not going to necessarily, retract from our position because there are other people who are saying it.
Well, many people would in fact ask, where then was the state for decades in the south of Lebanon? Isn't part of Hezbollah's legitimacy among many rooted in the vacuum that has been left by the government?
No, it's not. This is total, I'm sorry to say, there's no other word. This is BS. This is something that was true 50, 60 years ago, Ghida. What you're saying about the Lebanese neglect, this is something that, half-cooked ideas and academics would say, but this
But
was
this is
true
a
in the
reality
19...
that exists. I've been to the south of Lebanon on
No, no,
many
this is... Yeah,
occasions,
yes,
and the
but
government,
let me
the
tell you
state,
why. Let
appears
me
to be
tell you why.
completely absent.
Yes, but since 1969, that area was under Palestinian PLO control, and the PLO was waging its war against Israel. From 1969 to 1975, when the Civil War started, so you're talking about almost 60 years when the state was not allowed to be in the south of Lebanon.
I'm talking
And in
about
70...
today, Minister, though. I'm talking
Yes,
about the
but
reality
today,
today.
but you know what? We need to get the history right. And the Lebanese state, and it has to be on the record, has spent more money in the reconstruction of the South, despite the blockade that was put on the Lebanese army to go to South Lebanon by Hezbollah. But the Lebanese state still spent more on the reconstruction and the development of the South than any other area in Lebanon, all to see that destroyed again in 2006 because of a war that Hassan Nasrallah chose to start in 2006, and again in 2023, and again in 2026. Now you tell me, is the deterrence working? How's that working out for you? I don't think it is. And this, you cannot blame today the Lebanese state. We are doing everything we can. We are providing housing and shelter to the over 1 million, 1.2 million. We're providing financial support for a country that is bankrupt. We put away all our other priorities to provide financial support to a population that has been displaced because of the IRGC and Iranian influence over Hezbollah and Hezbollah's willingness to be someone else's pawn.
If Hezbollah disarms tomorrow, what guarantees are there that Israel will actually stop its military operations in Lebanon and stop its territorial violations? Are there any guarantees?
Look, the only guarantees are the ones that we can reach in parallel, the diplomatic agreement with international guarantees, with international support, and hopefully with observers on the ground, and in parallel with strengthening the Lebanese armed forces. Those two things have to move in parallel. And the third track that has to be in parallel is the restoration of full government services in the south of Lebanon and support for the reconstruction. Those three things have to happen in parallel. Without that, there isn't going to be any stability and no security for no one on either side of the border.
Are you offering Lebanon a genuine strategy for stability and sovereignty, or simply asking the Lebanese to accommodate a new regional order that is, let's be frank, being dictated by Washington and Tel Aviv?
I don't see that at all. I think, for a government that is basing its position on a document that was agreed by all Lebanese in 1989, the Taif Accord, which called for the disarmament of all militias, and for a constitution that says that there can only be the Lebanese armed forces over all of Lebanese territory. You cannot say, well, this is something that we've now decided because the world order or the regional order is changing. What we are saying is very clearly, we need to be a normal state like any other state with our own control over our own borders, over the control of our own destiny. I think we're going through a very critical phase. There are no guarantees. I'm a realist, and I know that there are risks. But what I also know is that the current situation is untenable, and the Hezbollah alternative has cost Lebanon way too much, and it has caused the destruction of the South, and caused the death of thousands and thousands of fellow Lebanese. And what we are doing is trying to extricate Lebanon from a war that we have no interest in.
People watching what is going on in Lebanon on a daily basis in the South see indiscriminate Israeli attacks. They see entire Lebanese villages being razed to the ground. You do not seem to have any word to say on Israeli attacks.
I mentioned Hezbollah because they're the Lebanese side. They're the side that we can control. Hezbollah is the Lebanese side. It's our responsibility. You know what? I'm saying that, yes, there is a war, but there's a way out of this war. We're going to try it. Diplomacy is the way. If we reach an agreement, that is good. If we get the international guarantees, that's good. That's going to be necessary, actually. But I'm also confident, I'm even more confident that the current situation where Hezbollah claims to deter, and it's not, claims to defend, and it's failing to defend, that is not the solution.
Minister Kamal Shehadi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ghida.
Now, there's little doubt that Lebanon stands at a critical juncture as the government calls for stability, sovereignty, and the disarmament of Hezbollah. Israeli strikes continue to devastate the south. Caught between Iran, Israel, the United States, and its own internal divisions, Lebanon's future will depend on the state's ability and its willingness to finally assert authority over its entire territory before the country is pulled deeper into another cycle of conflict and the competing agendas of external powers. From me, Ghida Fakhry, and the entire team, thanks for watching.